this values exercise a couple of years ago, and it's really helped me kind of hone down some decision making. It makes it really not easy, but a little bit quicker and a little bit more empirical. So hang on tight and I'll talk you through it. It doesn't take that long, I promise. Step one is to choose your professional values. So start to find your top 6. And what I'd recommend is start off with a huge list, like just write down everything that you couldn't survive a day, a week, a month, a year without, and then whittle it down to the top 6. I'd highly advise to continue defining and exploring and creating your values. It can take a couple of weeks or it can take a couple of minutes, depends on the type of person you are. But I would also kind of suggest to actively work to remove some of your values out of your top 6. So for instance, one of my objectives is to get security out of there so I can put something else in, if you know what I mean. So you're constantly trying to like refresh that top 6. So the next step is to chart your values. And so this is the easiest thing to think of. Just think of a crosshair diagram. On the right hand side, you plot 2 values at a time, and then you drag your first value on the laughter scale. So my first job was, my first job, I worked in a supermarket in my local hometown. So laughter was right up there because I was with all my mates, and it was really, really funny. Growth, it was probably up there in the top right hand quadrant because obviously it's my first job, I learned a lot. My last job, laughter was kind of down. Growth was also down in the bottom left hand quarter. My current job, again, laughter is up there, and so was growth. And my next job, what you're aiming for is just right up there in the top right hand corner. And then you go through and you do this with each values, and just go through it. And then at the end, you kind of just take a little step back and you kind of have a think, go, oh, okay, so that's kind of like a pattern, and you'll be able to tweak your values and how much they mean to you and put context around them. The next tip I would suggest is to understand choice as a mindset. There's a really amazing woman. I sat through a keynote of her, Sheena Iyengar. So she's a professor of business, and she's blind from birth. She's a parent, which I just can't even understand how to be a blind parent. It's amazing. And she mentioned that in great leaders there was one common thread, which is the ability to see choice where others did not, and to be able to create possibility in despair. And I always say that you always have a choice. You may not like your choices, but you always have a choice. And in terms of, like, that can be really hard to accept, but it is the case sometimes. So in that regard, Gina would recommend to close your eyes and have a think about a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and what choices you made then. That means you're sitting here right now. And just permeate on that for a little bit. And then once you're finished, can take a little bit of time, think of a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and what choices will you have to make. That means that whatever you visualized will become a reality. And there's an awful lot of literature on visualization, especially in sport, but I believe you can make that tangible in everyday life goal setting as well. There's another top tip I would recommend in terms of when you make a choice, and that is be kind in your everyday life, because your network matters. There's some more research from Mark Gratt. He did a network analysis of over 300 senior executives, and he asked them to think of a problem you're stuck on, write down a quick list of people who can help solve this problem, but the caveat is the person must be someone you haven't spoken to in 3 or more years. And the idea is to get in touch with them, run through quickly to say, hey, can I have a coffee? Here's what I'm struggling with. And it may be you're struggling with what choice you have to make next, but more than likely they'll be able to offer some insight or some advice if they are a good friend of yours, if you were kind, that will help solidify that next choice. So that's it. If you have any questions on that, let me know. Or if you want any of the references to the research, it's all perfectly Googleable, what I've suggested. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell.